we have no problems, no, like the flu or something like that. We are scared to wake up with the flu. And because the problem is, if you are reported with the flu or something similar, you may have to leave your house and you don't see anymore the people that you love. This is the scare that we have in this moment. It has been changing a lot, in hours the situation was changing. And by the beginning we were like joking about that. We were like making a lot of jokes on internet and in between each other. We were still going to work, we were still traveling, we were still going to bars, and until the end of February, also the first week of March, we were living like before. Some way we were like underestimating the situation, and plus if you put also our way of being, our way of life, that ask us to be outside and to meet. And for us, for example, in Cremona, if you come in a different, not now, in a situation, in a usual situation, I have a bed and breakfast in Cremona, a small bed and breakfast, and with every people who comes, used to come at my place, I used to have them meet my friends. It was like they had friends immediately when they got to Cremona. They just installed in the apartment, and maybe the same evening we were going out to have an aperitif. And aperitifs in Italy, you can imagine, it lasts hours, and we stay at the bar all together. We continued like that because it was a kind of impossible to change for us. And the situation started to be more serious after the first week of March. And we actually started to realize that things that we heard on television, somebody said that it was no more than a seasonal illness, sickness, a cold, something like that, or a flu. And they were saying that if you compare with deaths, people who dies every year for the usual flu, were much more than the people who were reported died for coronavirus by that moment. We were saying that it was not a sickness that regarded like the young people, and we consider young the 50, 60. They were thinking about like the target of this virus was from 70 something to 80 something. It was not regarding us. That was the idea that we had until a few weeks ago. Until when I started to, I opened a newspaper one day, and I saw the picture of the director of an important newspaper of Cremona. He was retired, but we still had meet on the street very often. When I came back from work, walking through Cremona, I usually met him, and I opened the newspaper. I was still going to the bar in the morning for my cappuccino and croissant, and just I was waiting to go to the office and having breakfast like that, fast breakfast like that, and I opened the newspaper, and usually I read information of the pink newspaper, which is for sports. The name is Gazzetta dello Sport. In the morning before going to work, I like to read silly news. And that time, by that time, I started to read La Provincia, which is the newspaper of Cremona. Opened, I saw on the front of the newspaper the picture of this cardinal, who was a very good friend of mine. And by that moment I started to understand that there was something changing, that there was something who would have changed everything. But still, when I arrived in the office, we still were like making jokes. And we still were there, working close to each other. And the situation, as I said before, it started to change abruptly, very, very fast. Downwards you saw big changes, until when I heard of a grandfather who wanted to, before dying, wanted to see, and in a video talking with his niece, and wanted just to say hello, to say goodbye. And that I realized that many people were dying like that. So that was the turning point, where I started to understand that we were in a bad situation, on the brink of a disaster. So I of course, nobody was in my apartment, so I wanted to move to my girlfriend's apartment, which is 35 kilometers away. I didn't want to stay alone in that apartment, and I didn't want her to be alone. So I moved there, and for that reason, for a while, I didn't have connection, because in this apartment sometimes the Wi-Fi mobile is not so good. I'm waiting for the cable one, and they still not changed from to move from Cremona to here, because many technicians doesn't want to enter the houses now, and this is another point. Friends of mine called me, because it is a confusion. Many cannot have to stop their activities, and they don't know if they will be able to open again. This morning, a friend of mine called, because he wanted to know. My office, Prefectura, has this information from the government, and they don't know if they have to close, not close. And if they close, they say probably we will not be able to. And the situation changed, as I said, hour by hour, and it was worse and worse and worse. I felt like trapped. We were like nobody around. You know, if you go in the village, you can see anybody on the street. It's something which we could not predict, we could not think about.
Describe and be as descriptive as you want as to the current situation. I mean, we hear numbers, and it's hundreds of people have died per day, but what are you seeing personally, witnessing personally, as this continues to escalate?
The problem is now that we cannot go out. we are really trapped in the houses, and luckily enough, because this is the only way to stop the virus spreading. I got information from friends who call me and give me information of, for example, this morning, a friend of mine called and said that another friend was in intense therapy on the tent in Cremona, the American tent, The Cuban made a tent in a town near here, and the Americans in Cremona. And he said that he was like on the brink of, die. And the Americans, doctors, asked him to try a drug, a new one, and he accepted, and saved his life. After 3 days, he could go back home. I don't know what they are talking about, what kind of drug they are talking about. Many information are coming from friends, and it's like war. Every day you see you are reported people died. Many are. For example, this morning I saw in online, a newspaper online, I saw the picture of a worker of a village in the municipality of the village, and who I knew very well, very young, probably no more than 40 years old. He died. So it's so strange that, so weird that I can even, I don't know, we have like a very strange reaction also, sometimes you are like excited because you can talk to people who you have not talked for a long time, and maybe 10 minutes later you are like depressed, like without a reason, but very depressed, like no energy at all, and you have to react because this situation, the weakness of the body is a part of the which can help the virus to develop. Because actually I think that many of us are positive. We don't know, but many are positive. Much more, 10 times more than what are reported. Because the procedure they do for to discover if you are positive or not are limited. But Italy is one of the countries who did more. But anyway, there are many people are not being touched, controlled, checked. So I'm sure that we are 10 times more. We can get to 500,000 positive, I think. Something like that. To make you an example, yesterday, 2 days ago, my brother called me and said, your apartment in Cremona is available? I said, yes. Nobody is there. Who else is coming in months, maybe years? It's a disaster. I have to pay the mortgage, and it was connected with the guests. And so now we don't know what is happening. That's not so important. The problem was he was asking for his wife. I said, wife, your wife, what happened? The problem is the mother of his wife was reported positive, because what happens in the hospital for retired old people, the virus is spreading a lot. And this morning, the daughter of my brother was working as a radiologist. He's working in England. And he called me and he said she wants to come back. And I said, yes, you can go to pick her up in the airport. I asked which was the procedure to come back, and it's possible. And after he said to me, no, I cannot, for 14 days I have to stay home because I was close to my wife and my wife is positive. So it's changing totally. Tomorrow I'm going to Malpensa to bring my niece coming from England and putting her in my apartment in Cremona. So we have, my brother lives in a village called Azzanello. His wife lives in another village at her mother's house. And my niece, which is the son of them, will be in Cremona, all three separated, because it is the only way to prevent the spreading of the virus. Imagine, from scratch. 2 days ago, my brother, who has other problems, has to stay very, very accurate and inside home. I called him, he said, I'm okay. 2 days, a day after, we started to have, it's like that, it is going like that. One day it's okay, the other day one of them are infected. One day after, two of them are infected, and it's going like that. It's a disaster. And Clark, imagine in Codogno. Codogno is the town where first started all the fire, right? Codogno is the name, it's not far from Cremona. And in Codogno, lots of nurses and doctors were infected. And it's about a month that they cannot come out of the houses. Imagine that.
Well, based on what you know and heard, and you shared it in a couple of emails, what is the current situation? What are you hearing about what's been happening at the hospital there in Cremona?
The hospital is another story again. I mean, there is really is a war. It's really a war. If you see the faces of the doctors and nurses, when they sometimes they record themselves and they picture themselves. It's like a war. They are wounded because of wearing for too many hours masks and all the stuff that they need. They are working without. They are sleeping on the hospital. They have no change. The shift. They just sleep an hour and they start a new shift. They are not enough. And the problem is, I don't know how they will call the machine to make the people breathe. And sometimes the doctors had to decide who could have one or who not. The people who were had many other problems, probably they could not have a machine because there are not enough. Too many in a few time. Too many patients. There is a real disaster. The stress. I talked to some of them, and they say that the big stress is not the fatigue, but is what you are doing is not helping people to survive. So usually they do efforts and they see a result in a normal situation. In this situation, what they resent more, they feel like being useless, and they are doing. And they are like a fighter. They are like on the line against the enemy, but they feel like useless. This is the stress that much hit them. I think it's that is all the people I tried to talk to. I had this answer. They told me they are in a situation in which they don't see a solution.
Wow. And you had also got into some detail as well regarding there are so many bodies and people dying. What is happening with that?
This is terrible, terrible, especially in Bergamo. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. You know, in Bergamo, the army arrived to bring all the coffin. All the companies who usually take care of funerals, they were working 24 hours and they were not enough. So the coffin, without almost without a name, I mean, they were like piled. And so the government asked the army to get there and bring the corpse to different towns. They do. You can see. I went to work on Monday, and when I were coming back to Soncino, to this village, I saw a row of cars. You know, the cars who usually accompany the people who dies. I saw a huge line passing by. They were going to Cremona, was going on the other side, on the other direction. But what happened in Bergamo was not possible to treat all and they bring them to other towns to burn the corpse, and they give back they give back like a box to the families. The families get a box in change of a husband, a friend, a mother, and father. That is impossible to describe.
You had mentioned that there are so many bodies that there sometimes aren't even official funerals or those types of things. There's cremation going on site or something.
Yes. No, no funerals at all. They are forbidden, totally forbidden funerals. They don't. When they go into intensive treatment, they stop. They cannot have connection outside, and if they die, they put on a side, and the army comes to bring them, and they go without having any connection with the families, go straight to the crematory plant, and but the ones near Bergamo was full. They are working 24 hours and they could not dispose of the corpse. So they asked other towns, but only also the problem was the transport. No funeral at all. They are forbidden. Totally forbidden. You get boxes. Sometimes, when they realize they are dying, they can ask a nurse to connect, but very few times they can, because you know the situation is there are many patients to care, and no time to stay to realize that somebody is dying. Sometimes I think is that was the fact that most impressed me without being there, because I can imagine and many doctors also are dying at the moment, because at the beginning we had like a shutdown of importation of masks and other sanitary goods that were in the hospitals, and we didn't have enough masks, and the clothes also that the doctor used, they used like a plastic bag on them, because there was no after the Chinese came with the airplane of a load of this kind of goods that hospital needs. But for a while, at the beginning, Germany didn't sell the mask to Italy, and France also. The beginning was really a bad hit to European credibility also. Even if I still think that we still have to believe, because people who don't believe, they are exploiting the situation. That is another story. The economical situation will lead to instability politically, and I'm very scared about that. Very scared. I'm very scared of what will happen later, with a lot of unemployment, many people who will be without a job, many companies closed. In this situation develops usually a temptation of a strong government that I don't want. I hope it's not like I'm thinking. Maybe I'm too pessimist, but I'm scared.
Describe daily life for yourself now. I mean, we've kind of talked about it in general, but what is life for you personally right now, emotionally, just everything?
As I said, we go to bed with hope that in the morning we wake up healthy. I'm not married with Christina, and she's scared that one of the two, if one of two goes to hospital. We have also a dog to care, and we are scared for him to be alone. A lot of implication about this story, main implication that you cannot imagine. For example, tomorrow I have to go to drive to Malpensa to bring my niece coming from England. I don't have a printer here in. I cannot print documents. If they stop me, they can sequester my car. You understand me?
Yes.
They can. Okay, and I have to give a reason why I'm driving. There's a lot of stressful situation that we have to solve. She will be in the apartment in Cremona, and she cannot go out because she's in quarantine. How can she go to buy food? So we have to find some organization who take care of people who cannot go out of their houses. There's a lot of implication you cannot imagine. For the moment, I try not to think too much because otherwise I don't want to be stressed because the stress works against you. So sometimes I try not to think too much, even if it's impossible. But at least try to be positive, try to call somebody and try to say, in Italy everybody writes andrà tutto bene. And if you follow me in internet, there's a lot of, with my dog, we are posting a lot of pictures with andrà tutto bene, it will be okay, it will be okay. Some piece, the children write in colors, andrà tutto bene, it will be okay. And you can see on the balcony of them, of the houses, some of them, the flags of Italy, some places. Personally, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm just thinking not to get sick in some way. The future, we don't know what will be later. We don't know. We don't have to think now. The only thing I don't want to is to fall into a political situation that I don't like. I mean, we in Italy we had in the past something that dangerous. I don't want to go back in something like that because when I was a child, I had a lot of. I used to go to the old people to ask them a question about the war, about the fascism, and about what was the situation during when they were young. And I reported a lot of young boys and girls raped and killed and tortured. And so the only thing I'm scared of is to be sick and to lose my freedom. The only other things we can solve. Other thing, I just ask not to go into something like that. I just ask that this situation will pass very fast. I mean, in a month or two. Because if it lasts more, it will be very dangerous.
For you, now, are you, except for to be able to go and pick up your niece or get essentials at the market or something like that, I mean, are you still able to work, or are you technically quarantined as well?
Okay, I'm now we have a deal with my job. that I go once a week, and after I should work from a house, but still is not ready the connection. Tomorrow, I have time to go to bring my niece at the airport. The problem is to demonstrate to the police that I have a reason to go there. So they will stop me, because from here to Milan they will stop more than one time, and I will have to demonstrate. I don't have documents. I will show them on the mobile, on WhatsApp, what she sent it to me to the hospital in England, who gave her the permission to leave, to come to see her parents, and that I'm bringing her to Cremona, where I have an apartment. I have the residence there, so they will ask me, why you are not in your residence? You are obliged to stay in your residence. And I have to explain that that place was bed and breakfast closed, and to help and stay with my girlfriend, I moved to this village. And now that apartment will be used by my niece. I have to explain, it's stressful that, I will start tomorrow, leave this village with this fear, with this stress, that I have to explain, I'm going to give a lift to my niece, and I have a lot of explanation to give. So this is the complication, understand me?
Yes. Trust me, we're gonna do our best to get your story out. For people need to hear this, because it puts a reality to what's going on, not only there, but what could be happening elsewhere around the world. And to hear it from a small town or whatever in Italy, and how it impacts your life and how it's impacting the lives of others, it's important.
This is the situation. Comparing with the war in Bosnia, for example, I had the impression, I have a feeling of empathy there. For that reason, I developed this story, and I developed the idea to get the people together there. But in fact, I was separate from the disaster. I was there, I could go back to Italy, and in Italy it was peaceful, and life was going on peacefully and totally normal, as usual. And I could understand them, but I understand more now. What is it to be under a menace, under a situation in which you can do nothing, you are unable to do something, to change it. And they were in that situation. They were like victims, and I understand more now. What is it? What it means? I'm thinking a lot of the tears, and now I realize better what was and what I did. You always have to go into a situation to understand it. If you are like a side and you are helping, is a good thing, but you are not understanding actually totally what they can feel. Now I understand better.
Hopefully our conversations will help others understand it more from the perspective of someone on the inside as just to hearing how many more deaths there have been, but how this is impacting the lives of so many people. So
Yes, yes.
it's
But
important.
hopefully, because people have to understand that nobody is safe from wars, from disasters, from pandemic situation. We used to be safe. We thought to be safe, until, for example, until September 11. Who could imagine? And now, if people start to understand that we live in a unique world, if they start to understand that we are not elected by God, because we are on the West. If people understand that we have to fight against racism, we have to fight against individuality sometimes, and we have to consider ourselves in part of a unique things that is humankind. I have a lot of people who are still going with letters of hate in Facebook and lots of fake news because they know that they are fake, but they post it because they want to they are living like life. If life is like a football match, they are living like. If you are on the side of AC Milan will always be right and the best, and you always fight for AC Milan. If you are on the other side for Inter Milan, you will be up for them, support them. It's not, life is not work. It should not work like that. We should see and be honest, read and see the reality without being, partisans, just because we see the life like a football match. This is terrible, I think.
I keep using the word surreal in terms of what daily life has become here. Is there a word or words that you could use to describe your feelings of what's happening? I don't know if surreal even comes close to what you may be going through.
Okay. The word is, I don't know if I can express exactly in English, but is incredibility. Unbelievable. Something that is like you are living in a fake, in a movie or something. So it's, for me, what happening here is unbelievable. It's still unbelievable. This is, I think, the most, the way it touched me at the beginning and still continue now to influence me. Sometimes I wake up and think that it's not real. And but after a coffee, you realize it's real. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. It's, I don't know how to describe more than that.
That's plenty. You can hear the emotion in your voice. You're a generous, kind, loving human being, and I truly appreciate you taking this time and willingness to continue to keep us updated on the situation there that if it weren't for your voice, we may not even know of that part of the country and what's going on. You take care now, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Ciao.